Hi everyone, welcome to the swamp. Today we're in the studio and we're going to be making this winter sunset painting. Now, if you're wondering why there's a turkey in the park in this painting, we're going to explain that a little bit later. But for now, grab all your supplies, get a drink, maybe a snack, and get ready to have fun. I'm going to pull an affirmation card for our painting practice today. Just for fun, why not, right? No pressure, just relax and watch it happen. Which is perfect. I always say there's no mistakes in art. Anything that happens while you're painting is meant to happen. It's what's going to make your painting unique for you. So just remember to have fun, pause when you need to, and let's get started. For this tutorial, you will need the following supplies. A canvas. I'll be using 16 by 20 inches, but you can choose any size you like. Some paper towel. A paintbrush set. Choose something that's got a variety of sizes. A paint palette. For this, I'll be using a paper plate. You can use anything you like as long as it doesn't absorb paint. Craft paint. I've got the 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, as well as white and black. A blank piece of paper, a ruler, a pencil, a pair of scissors, and some water for rinsing your brushes. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to start with bright yellow and deep red. So always remember to shake your bottles. I know they're new for you, but you never know how long they've been on a truck or how far they had to come and sit in a warehouse. So it's just good practice to always shake the paint the first time you're going to use it. You want to grab the widest brush that you have and just load it up with straight yellow. And we're going to go to the center of our canvas and draw the horizon line. Now this doesn't need to be straight, it doesn't need to be perfect. We're just getting paint on the canvas right now. Oh, and look, I'm going to go ahead right off the bat and prove my own point. There are no mistakes in art. So apparently I had some red paint on my brush and it ended up on the canvas, and that's fine. Just keep going. Blend it in like it was always meant to be there. Stuff like that's going to happen. You're going to get drips. You might put your hand into wet paint. There's always something. So as long as we realize there are no mistakes, everything was meant to be, just keep blending it in, and now it's part of your work. There we go. Perfect. So we're just going to keep adding yellow. If you think about the canvas sort of in quarters, like coming up from the bottom, I'm in the 3rd quarter. That one's going to be all yellow, so you just want to get as much paint on there as you can. And you need not a lot of yellow, but enough that eventually you're going to be able to blend. So when you're putting paint on canvas, you'll know there's an amount that just covers the canvas, and then there's a little bit more so you have sort of wet paint to play with. That's what we're going for here, enough wet paint to play with. Now take a little bit of red. So we're going to mix orange now. So when you're mixing paint, always get a blob of the lighter color and slowly add the darker color to it. It doesn't take much of a darker color to start making changes, and then mix it in completely until all the streaks are gone. See what color you've got before you add more dark pigment. Always add dark to light. So we're just going to keep mixing until we get the orange that we're after. Here we go. And start by right at the top and just keep working up towards the top of this. Again, we're just getting paint on the canvas right now. Don't worry too much about blending yet. Just keep working it up. Make sure that we have full coverage on the canvas. There we go. Now we're doing the blending strokes. So what this is just it's a long sweep, and you're not using a lot of pressure. You're basically just skimming through it. And what that's going to do is when you're doing that, you bring it up. The yellow is going to blend into the orange, and when you come down, the orange is going to blend into the yellow, and it just makes it into this nice, fuzzy, faded mixture. So just light strokes all the way across. That's how we blend. Now we'll take full red, and we'll start doing the same thing all the way up to the top. So we're just going to worry about getting paint on the canvas, making sure the entire canvas is covered. So you can see as I'm just getting coverage, I'm pushing a little harder. You can see all the brush strokes. You know, it looks streaky. That's fine for now. We're just getting paint on the canvas, making sure that it's all covered. And then once you know that you have full coverage, that's when we'll do our long, sweepy blending strokes. So once I've got it covered here, now we'll do the long, and it's just a light pressure all the way across, bringing the red down into the orange. And you can see it starts to get rid of the brush strokes and it just starts to blend it all. So come down, back up, the orange goes back up into the red, and as you go up and down, it just gets blurry and fuzzy and it looks smooth, and this is what we're going for. So just keep playing with it. I'm just rinsing a little bit of the red off my brush. It doesn't have to be completely clean. Just taking some of the paint off. We're going to get a little bit of the blue. You just want a tiny little bit of this. A little goes a long way. So just touch the blue, tiny little bit. You can always put more. It's harder if you have less. See, look at how bright that is. You just want a little bit of blue. It goes really far. So again, once you have your blue on, start blending it in. Keep most of the color concentrated to the corners. Then we're going to blend all the way across. And we'll take a little bit of red, work the red up into the blue. Long blending strokes. So basically just play with your sky now until you're happy with it. I'm trying to bring some of the brighter colors back up into the middle. Just take the dark color off my brush here. That way the red covers it more. Just doesn't end up being darker and darker and darker purple. Long blending strokes. We're just going to keep playing with it until we're happy with what we've got. Now here I'm just rinsing the red out because I'm going to get some yellow and try to bring the brightness back up a little bit. Lighten up the bottom a little bit more. This is all personal preference. However you want your sky to look, just keep playing with it until it's how you like it. If you need to press pause while you fuss with it, now's the time to do that. Just keep going till you have what you like, and then we'll move on. So I'm rinsing my brush really well here, because the next color we're going to use is white. So you want to make sure that you've got all the red and yellow and everything out of there. So just keep going and use your paper towel, and make sure that when you're wiping it, it's coming out clean. So we're going to need some more blue and also white. And don't be shy with your puddles of paint here. The only wasted paint is stuff that's left in the tube. So take as much as you need. Make a good puddle. So with the pure white, we're going to take our brush and we're going to do the other side of the horizon line. This doesn't need to be pristine either. It's going to get covered by trees. We just need a good thick amount of white paint. Just basically the thickness of your brush really, because it's going to get blended down. So it's the same amount. We want coverage and we want a little bit of extra paint to be able to blend. And again, you're going to mix a little bit of blue into the white. We want a very light blue, like a baby blue. We're going to put that right below our white and blend up in. And this is going to be our background snow. So long blending strokes, and this is going to fill the second quarter, if we're talking about quarters again. And basically it's going to fade from totally white on the horizon line down to a darker blue at the bottom. So you're just going to keep mixing light blue and adding dark blue and just blending until we've got a good gradient going down to where we want it. So you can see it's like an ombre effect. It starts off white, it's very light blue, a little bit darker, a little bit darker. That's exactly what we want. It creates depth, especially when we put the foreground snow in there. It'll make that snow look like it's further away. So you just want the darkest snow to be at the bottom here. Just add blue and then blend it in. Till we've got about a quarter of the bottom of the canvas left to go. And just keep blending until it's nice and smooth. And again, there are no mistakes. Okay, so if you need to pause while you mess around with the snow, that's fine. Now's the time to do that. Otherwise, clean your brush really well. We're done with the fat brush for now. So just make sure that it's nice and clean before you put it away. And we're going to take the medium-sized flat brush. And we're going to be using red and yellow again. We're going to be making the same sort of colors that we used in the sky. So if you still got some on your palette, that's great. I'm going to need a little more here. We're going to start with straight red. And what we're going to do is we're going to go up to our horizon line and we're going to make the trees that are in the distance. So it's basically just a tapping motion. Using the end of the bristles straight on, you're just going to tap paint onto the canvas. You want to make sure that the tops are jagged. They are the tops of trees. They're not in a straight line. They're not, they don't follow any sort of a line or anything. That you want them to be random. And you want your dots to be, they don't need to be uniform. Like it's a tree, right? So when there's blobs and things, it just creates depth. So you're basically just making blobs. If you can see the background through it, that's fine. If you can't, that's fine too. The darker bits of paint just make it look like the inside of the trees. So you want your tree line to go, so you got some tall trees, some short trees, but they are trending down. So what we're doing is we're creating distance. So the trees over to the left are closest to us. And as they get further away, obviously the line will go down. So we're going to make a little bit more orange here. And as the trees get further and further away from us, they're going to get lighter and lighter. And again, these trees are going to be staggered at the top, so they're all different heights. But the trend is going to be that they're getting further and further away, so the heights get shorter and shorter. And the bottom of your trees just have to cover the horizon line so that they're on the snow. They don't have to be perfect. They're a tree. So you want to rotate your brush as you go just so that your shapes remain random. And you want to keep the trees going down until you get to about the width of your brush. And then just do a little section that's as tall as they are, and then start going back up. As if they're coming towards us again. So staggered the tops. It looks random like a forest. Just keep moving across the horizon line. Just keep adding paint. If the middle of the trees looks too smooth and uniform, you can add extra blobs in there to give the tree more depth. And when your orange trees on the right are about as tall as the orange trees on the left, we're going to switch back to red. Also on this side, you can see I'm leaving the bottom half of the end of the trees open. That's so that when we switch back to red here, these trees will sort of be in front of the orange. It creates the illusion that the orange trees are behind these red trees. So we just bring the red over in front of the orange trees a little bit. And same thing, we're going to just keep moving across the canvas with the red. The trees will keep getting taller as we move to the right. Stagger the tops. And just keep playing with it. Adding blobs into the middle for depth. And again, we're going to switch colors again, so I'm just making the tops of these and I'm leaving the bottom half of it open for the next color to overlap. What we're going to do, we're going to take some red and we're going to add a little tiny bit of blue to it. We basically just want a little bit of a deeper red than comes out of the bottle. You don't want purple. You just want a little bit of a deeper red. That's great. Just a dark red. And again, we're going to go right in front of the last red. Make it look like those ones are behind these ones. We're going to cover our horizon line. And just keep the tops of the trees trending a little higher all the way to the other edge. If you're working on this and you find that your white horizon line isn't quite dry and a little bit of it is getting into your paint and blending up, that's fine. Just keep tapping it in until the colors blend together. So we're just going to keep adding paint and turning the brush to get random shapes. Making our trees taller all the way to the edge of the canvas. And you can see here from the wide shot, the effect is that the trees are moving away from us. So this is our background tree line. If you need to pause, now's the time. We'll just keep going until these trees are filled in. And that's the end of the background trees. So once we're done with those trees, you can clean that brush off. We're done with that one. Now we're going to paint in the sun. So you want to get a small detail brush. It doesn't matter which one you use, whatever one you're comfortable with. We're going to just take straight white, and right where the trees are the lowest, that's where the sun's going to go. So you want to just tap the shape of the sun in place. Start in the middle and work your way out. And I find that the tapping motion works so much better than trying to just draw a circle. I don't know about you, but I can't draw a circle. But especially in a technique like this where you're trying to sort of get in between the trees so that the trees are left in front of the sun somehow, this just works better. It's also good if the yellow behind isn't quite dry yet. This ends up just sort of blending it into the white, so it just looks like a mottled texture, as opposed to if you drew a circle, you'd end up with like a swirl, and it would just, it doesn't look right. So just tap your sun shape right where you want it until you've got the edges that you like. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. And then once that's done, rinse your brush. We're going to grab a little bit of the orange that we used for those trees. And we're just going to add the treetops back in front of the sun so it looks like it's setting behind those trees. And you only need a little bit of the orange for this. If you're running out on your palette, just get your paintbrush wet and it should give you enough, it should activate enough of the orange that you could achieve this little effect. There we go. So you can rinse that brush. And we're going to go back to the widest brush again. And we're going to do the foreground snow. So the foreground snow happens exactly the same as the background snow happened. We're going to start with a straight line of white. This time, the top edge of it does have to be smooth. It doesn't have to be straight, but it does have to be a solid line of white because it is in the foreground. So just make sure that the top edge of it is a straight, solid line. I'm giving my front snow here a little curve, a little wave motion, just so it looks like mounds of snow. And then again, you just want to make sure that you have enough white in the top there to blend down as we go. So we're just going to load white along this top edge here. Just so we have enough to blend like we did before. And then it's the exact same process. You're just going to make the light blue and start blending down until the whole bottom of the canvas is covered. Now this blue should be a little lighter than the background blue, just because it is closer to us. So go with a really subtle blue to start with. And just blend up into the white. The great thing about the snow is that it doesn't have to be uniform. Anywhere that there's darkness under the light, it just looks like depth. It just looks like piles of snow. So this is really forgiving. It's very free form. You can just go for it, play with it until it's where you like. So we're just going to get full coverage, blend up and down, keep it smooth. I like to do these sort of rainbow strokes, I guess you could call them, and it just makes it look like piles of snow, just like that. And again, that's just a light blending stroke. It's just in a rainbow shape. And then as you get down towards the bottom, the blue's going to get darker. Not as dark as it did in the background there. We want to go for about mid-range because this is the front. So we want the blue, but not as dark as the background snow. So we're just going to keep playing with this until it's how we like it. We're going to fill up the entire bottom. This is basically how dark it's going to get. We're going to add a little bit more shadow in a second, but we're just going to get full coverage with this light blue. But just remember that if you get some streaks of darker blue or the white or whatever, this is all very random. And those darker spots underneath make it look more realistic. So this is a very easy way to create depth in the snow, to create the illusion of distance in the snow. It's a very simple technique. You really can't go wrong. So this is great for beginners. You want to just keep mixing this light until we're fully covered, and then we're going to take some of the straight blue and we're just going to randomly put some streaks in. Some a little darker. Yeah, there we go. See, so just doesn't matter. Straight blue, and then just keep blending. And it just creates the illusion of shadows because there's a snowbank there. You really cannot go wrong. Just keep playing with it until you like it. Step back from it, see how it looks. And just keep doing your blending strokes. So I'm keeping the darker stuff more towards the bottom, same as the background snow. And then we're just going to make a light blue again to use it to blend it in. And those blue will get blended in and create shadows. Long blending strokes, light pressure. There we go. Foreground snow. You rinse that brush, we're done with that one. Pause now if you need to play with your front snow for a little bit. We're going to do the final step of the background, and that's shadows under the trees. So you're going to need the small angle brush. And we're just going to use the light blue. If you still have light blue left over from the snow we just did, that's great. It's just going to be a very light blue. And it's the same tapping motion that we used to make the trees themselves. And just right underneath them. There we go, light blue. So just right underneath the trees, we're just going to tap in some shadows. So the thing about the shadows, again, it should not be a solid block of color. We're going to tap, we're going to leave some of the snow showing through, and we're just going to tap it in. The taller the tree, the bigger the shadow is going to be. So as you move across towards the sun, the shadows will get smaller and smaller. So the orange tree shadows are going to be less and less. It's mostly just going to follow along the bottom of the tree line. Try to have your shadows mimic the tops of the trees. It doesn't have to be exact. It does not need to be a mirror image. It's just roughly. And you want the shadows to be random. You can see the snow through them. See here under the sun, I'm just doing tiny little bits because those shadows would be very far away, so we wouldn't be able to see them. And then as you come across and the trees get closer, the shadows will start getting a little bigger. And it's just the same tapping motion, moving across, letting the snow show through. And as your trees get taller, your shadows will get bigger. If you happen to pick up a little bit of paint from the tree, just blend it in. There are no mistakes. And as you finish up at the edge, step back, have a look at it. See if there's anywhere that needs a little extra. And that's it. Congratulations, you have a background. You did it. We are halfway through. Feel free to pause, go get a drink, grab a snack, take a break. When you come back, we're going to start working on the foreground. So the great thing about this foreground is because it's a sunset, everything is going to be in silhouette. So all you need is black paint. There's some details that we'll do later, but right now everything's just going to be black, so it's a little easier. You just got to draw. So we're going to start with the tree. So you want to take a detail brush, something that you can get a small line with, and we're going to start by just we're just going to rough in where the trees are going to go. So start to the left, somewhere up in the sky, and just make a line going down and stop at the top of the foreground snow. This line does not need to be straight. It's a tree. Trees are not straight, so don't worry about it. And then our second tree will be a little shorter than that tree, and it will come down, and it's going to go over top of the front snow, so it seems like it's a bit closer to us, just like that. We're just roughing things in right now. And then the third tree will be mid somewhere in between those two heights, and it will also stop at the top of the background snow. And then for symmetry's sake, on the other side, we're going to have 3 trees over here as well. So same sort of idea. Just rough in the lines. They should not be straight. Just try to keep them thin. We're going to thicken them up later when we draw the actual trees in if it's needed. So it's basically just a guideline to show us where the trees are going to go. So you want staggered heights, and you don't want them to be equal distance apart either. Nothing too forced. It's nature, right? So just something very organic with the way they would naturally come out. So 3 trees on each side. It's aesthetically pleasing. And now we're going to learn to draw a tree. Okay, so to make the thin branches at the top of the tree, you're going to start with a little bit of pressure, and as you go out, just lighten up on the brush, and it should naturally make a thinner line. We're just going to keep adding branches as we go. So branches on a tree are, again, not straight. So you want them a little jaggedy. So actually, if you're shaky, that's perfect. You want little shaky branches. Oh, I just put my hand in paint. See, it happens. So start with absolutely no pressure. Just slowly work into the canvas, and then as you put more pressure on the brush, the branch will get thicker, and it comes out looking great. So again, very little pressure, and then slowly start to push more with your brush to get the thicker part closer to the trunk. So now when you have the jaggedy branches, the thing about it is it helps later, because where the little turns and crooks are is where a twig will then grow. So it's sort of a good random way for you to place twigs later. So here, conversely, I'm starting with a lot of pressure and then slowly letting off the brush, and it's getting thinner as I go out. So either way, whichever way is more comfortable for you, start light and push more towards the trunk, or start at the trunk and relieve pressure as you go out. Either one works. So here we're going to add little twigs. And again, use the line you just drew as a guide. So if you look at where there's a little bend, that's where a twig would naturally be coming out on a real tree branch. So here you see there's a little bend right there, so I'm going to put a twig there. And again, you start with some pressure, and as you let off, it just gets thinner and thinner. And the paint on my hand has ended up somewhere in a painting where I don't want it. Let me show you how to fix that. So I'm just going to take a clean brush and get it wet. And I'm going to use the wet brush to sort of blend in the white paint that's where I don't want it. So that was just a little bit, so it's really easy to just use the colors around it and sort of erase it. And then for the blob that's in the trees, I can just try to blend it in. Or I can, if I still have that color on your palette, just get a little bit of it and cover over top. No mistakes. Only happy accidents. Thanks, Bob Ross. So back to tree branches. Again, we're just going to put them anywhere where it looks like there would be a natural growth happening. And we're just going to keep adding branches until we like the look of the tree. So now here's where you'd sort of back up and look at it and see if the line we made for the trunk needs to be more significant. So obviously the trunk is thinnest at the top. So just kind of back up and have a look at things and see if it looks right. If something looks like it needs to be a little more substantial, add some paint. Okay, and you can see me using my pinky finger to sort of steady my hand. So you can place your finger on the canvas somewhere you know is dry, and it'll help keep your hand steady while you're doing these fine lines. It's a little trick. Just let the branches naturally happen however they're going to happen. It's the beauty of a tree. Keep bulking up the trunk as it's needed. And the trunk is the same as a branch. It is not straight. So if there's little lumps and bumps in it, that's exactly how it would look. It has bark, it has branches that have broken off, all different kinds of reasons for it to have jaggedy edges, so nothing should be too straight or too perfect. I think the camera keeps trying to focus on my head, which is off screen. I'm actually learning a lot about making videos from this painting. So funny story, this is actually my second time painting this. The first time I used a camera that I used to take photos of my art, and it takes very good, high quality, high definition photos. But I learned the hard way that its video capture is not great. I painted the whole thing. I checked the footage. First lesson, didn't check the footage halfway through to make sure. Lesson learned. So I checked it, and it was blurry, and it was bad. It was unusable. So I had to do it. This is my second round. I had to do it all over again. So we're all learning. So these branches here are going to be covered by the next two trees. So don't worry too much about them. Don't get too fussy. You basically just want something back there so that if something shows through, it looks like the tree. But don't overthink these branches here. So now we're just going to finish out the trunk of this tree. So as you go down, give it some character, make it a little crooked. Trees don't grow straight. And just keep adding until it looks right. So just back away from it, have a look, add little bits at a time. Just keep working until you like how it looks. So my tree has a little bump there, so I'm going to give it a little twig. And then just work on bulking out the rest of the trunk down to the ground. And you just want it to end right at the top of the snow. It doesn't need to be too perfect because we're going to put some snow in front of it later. And there we go. We have a tree. You did it. Take a minute, enjoy it. Brushes down, shake it out. Happy dance, high fives. Those trees can be challenging, and you've got one, so take a minute to celebrate. We're going to clean out the detail brush. We're done with that one for now. We're going to make a coniferous tree now. Same technique as the background, but we're going to do it up front. So we're going to use the large angled brush, and with straight black, we're going to start at the top, and you want your brush to be vertical. So you want the angle to be up and down, and because you want the top to be very slim, you're just going to make very light dots starting at the top of the trunk, and slowly as you go down, add more and start to turn your brush horizontally. Sorry about the focus. You also want to start moving the brush outwards to start getting more thickness in the tree. So you see my brush is sideways, and you just tap, same as before, using the tips of the brush. And you start working out. So you're making like a curved motion as you're going across the tree. And you're just adding shapes. You want to be able to see some holes in it. It's not a solid black triangle. You want to be able to have some light showing through. Remember too that these trees also don't grow straight. So when you're going down on an angle, it's also not a straight line from the top to the bottom. So there's going to be gaps in the branches. They'll go out further and then come back in towards the trunk. It's all very random. You want a general trending towards a base, but leave some gaps, leave a space sometimes, have it go in and out just because branches break off or, things happen to trees out there. So just leave little spaces as you go. You can always go back and put paint in if you think it doesn't look right, but just try some things. And then as we get to the bottom, we're down over the snow. You want to give it just a basic curve around the bottom to make it look round. And then we're just going to fill it in. Again, you want to be able to see some snow through it. Doesn't need to be a solid black. And there we go. A coniferous tree. Hooray! That's 2. 2 down. 4 to go. So basically at this point, you're just repeating the process. So the next tree will be another deciduous tree, and then the other side, deciduous, coniferous, whatever you want to do. But you're just going to use the same techniques until you have all 6 trees completed. Okay, so while everyone's painting trees, let me just take a minute to explain why there is a turkey in this painting. So anybody who's from a small town will tell you that sometimes small towns have weird little celebrations. And those celebrations usually commemorate an event that happened in the town, and sometimes those events are weird. So in early 2020, like before COVID, before anything happened, it was just winter in Kemptville, and there was a wild turkey, which is not unusual for Kemptville. We are a rural community, so it's not out of the norm for there to be an animal around every once in a while. But this turkey was different. So what happened was there was this municipal worker. She showed up at work one morning, and there was a wild turkey in the parking lot. I'm not sure if she tried to take a photo of it, but it basically started chasing her around the parking lot. So she's like going behind cars, trying to avoid it, trying to have it lose track of her, and it didn't. It just kept chasing her. And her coworkers inside the building saw this and did what anybody would do. They videotaped it and put it on the internet.
Oh my God, it's so chasing. Oh no.
It's gonna attack my car. It's actually.
Yes. It's coming to the door.
So that clip got posted to Facebook, and it kind of went like local viral from there. So much so that it ended up on the news.
That is a wild turkey spotted in town numerous times. They've nicknamed him VanTurken for the road where she was found. It didn't take kindly to being photographed during the snowstorm. The town has posted an image of the bird on its Facebook page, and there are sightings all over the place.
Which seems silly, I know, but it's winter. There's not a lot happening, so I think it was just a feel-good story. Everybody was getting a good laugh out of it. So with all the notoriety and all the sudden focus on the little town of Kemptville, everyone decided to have some fun, and they would post pictures whenever they saw her around town. So there's photos of her blocking traffic. There's photos of her just harassing motorists in general, landing on their cars. I'm pretty sure she was in the Timmy's drive-thru one morning, blocking everyone from getting their morning coffee. She was just all over the place. People would see her and sort of take selfies like it's a celebrity sighting. Just some silliness, just to give everyone a laugh, and so it was all in good fun. And then lockdown hit in March, and people were doing things to find a way to connect with each other and to keep everyone's spirits up. So there was a thing where everyone was painting rocks, just painting fun designs on rocks and hiding them all around town. And if you found one, you were supposed to post it. So somebody painted VanTurken on a rock, and that was found and posted online for everyone to see. Local small business got involved. So they were making all kinds of fun things. There were mugs, there were t-shirts and hoodies. They made bumper stickers. There was a logo even made for our Pride Parade that year. Christmas ornaments. I know one restaurant for their summer menu made a VanTurken Teeny Martini. So it was all in good fun. It was just to bring a smile to people's faces. There was a lot going on. It was very heavy during COVID. So this was all just for laughs. And then obviously the ultimate sign that you're famous, there was a meme. And really at this point, it wasn't about the turkey anymore. It was about community, and it was about community spirit and being silly and just trying to brighten up people's day and make people laugh during lockdown. Like, it was just a way to bring joy to people and also to support local business, really, because we were I bought a shirt. I have a shirt. Hold on. So this went on for a while. There was sightings all over town. People would post that they saw her on this street or that street. It kind of became a running joke because they were trying to capture her, because every once in a while she would block traffic. They were worried that she would cause an accident or she would get hurt, but she kept evading the authorities. So it just became this running gag that, they can't catch Turkey. So eventually she was captured by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, and she was relocated somewhere safer. So she was far away from the roads, more in the forest, just somewhere where she could be safe and happy. But the municipality saw the effect that she had on the community and how much joy she brought to everyone. So they decided to declare the second Saturday in February VanTurken Day. So the idea is that the event would be an annual thing. There would be community activities. Maybe they could use it to do a food drive for the local food bank. Nothing really was set in stone. And now here we are in February 2021, and we are still in lockdown. So we can't have a community event, but we have gone virtual, and all of the activities are happening online. So for the virtual event, I was asked to do a painting online that everybody could follow along with. So this is what we're doing. I hope everybody's trees are going well. How's everyone doing? Keep going. You're doing great. So that's why there's a turkey in this painting in Kemptville, in the park, in winter, at sunset. And if you're finding this video and you're not part of the Kemptville community, I hope that you paint VanTurken into your painting anyway. I know you could put any animal there. It doesn't have to be a turkey, but I hope it is a turkey. Get in the spirit and celebrate our little local celebrity for all the joy and community that she brought to us all during COVID lockdown. Godspeed, VanTurken. All right, so everybody back to painting, or continue painting. So I hope your trees are going well. You're doing great. Hope you're having fun. So we're just getting down to the last details of the final tree. I left a little space in my last tree here, because sometimes that happens to trees during storms. They get some branches broken off. So a little bit of the trunk would be showing here, so I'm just making the line a little thicker. And that's it, we have our trees. If you still need time, now's the time to pause until you're caught up. But that's our little forest. Okay, so now we're going to give these trees some shadows. You're going to need the small angled brush. And we're going to mix up some of the same light blue paint that we used for the shadows last time. So again, you want to add the darker color to the light until we get a nice light blue. Now because the sun is on the right hand side of these trees, the shadow is going to go left. So at the base of the tree, we're going to start out and we're going to cast the shadow down at a 45-degree angle going left. So you're just start there and just swipe out. So the color will be pretty solid at the base of the tree, like where the tree meets the ground should be a pretty solid color, but as it goes out, the snow is going to show through. So if your line isn't solid, that's perfect. That's what you want. And we're just going to keep pulling the paint out until we like the size of the shadow. Straight line away from the sun. And for the pine tree, same as before, we're just going to dab the color around the base and move out across the snow, leaving gaps so that we can see the snow through the shadow. And this shadow will go on the same angle. And again, darkest right at the bottom of the tree. And then as you move out, there will be more space in between your color where the snow is showing through. And you're going to want to make the same sort of triangle shape for the shadow. So let's try to think about where the trunk would be underneath the tree, like in the center. And out from there is where the top of the shadow would be. Just try to visualize a line and then make your shadow out from there. And then the final tree also needs a shadow. So same idea, the bottom part of it will be covered by that tree. So just start right out beside it and with the same swiping motion, same angle, letting the snow show through. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side, but because the sun is now on the left, the shadows are going to cast right. So we're going to start at the base of the tree and at the same angle. Again, darkest right where the tree meets the ground. And then just swipe out. And as it gets further from the tree, more of the snow will show through the shadow. So your paint color doesn't need to be as solid. Let the gaps happen till you're happy with the length. And then these trees are the same as well. So it'll be darkest near the bottom. And the shadow will cast out at the same angle as the first tree and get lighter as it gets further across the snow. Make sure to take a minute to sit back every once in a while and look at it. Sometimes when you're painting you can get really close up and you lose perspective, especially when you're doing these shadows. So just sit back for a sec, make sure you're on the right path, make sure you're going in the right direction. And as you lose paint off your brush, that's great. That's when you should be doing the shadows that are far away from the tree because it will give you a natural faded look because you don't have a lot of paint left. So when you first load your brush, work closer to the tree, and as it just naturally runs out of paint, move away from the tree and it'll give you that faded effect that you're looking for. And there you have a lovely winter sunset painting. Well done. Now it's time for the main attraction. We're going to get into the details of Kemptville and our VanTurken. So you may have seen earlier pictures of our downtown core. So this is our clock tower, and there's a nice little park with these benches, and they're pretty iconic in the town. So that's what I'm going to use to reference that we are in Kemptville. So I'm just going to take a pencil here and sort of reference where I'm going to put my clock tower. I'm also going to roughly draw it in just to make sure that I have the scale right now. Don't panic. I'm going to show you how to draw this thing. It's actually very simple. It's just a bunch of shapes. So once you have your reference line, somewhere near the top you want to draw a circle. And then a little ways down from that, you want to draw a triangle. Underneath that, you want a square. And then an upside down triangle. And then leave a little space on the pole. And then draw a long, thin rectangle. And then a little bit fatter rectangle. And then at the bottom, an upside down triangle. There's the clock tower. Easy peasy. Now the bench is a little bit more involved, but still very doable. So you want to take your ruler and place it on your painting at an angle. Not too much of an angle, but not perfectly straight. You just want a slight, you want it to be slightly off kilter just to force perspective. So the size of the bench is going to depend on the size of your canvas. So choose a length here that looks right for your picture. And you're going to draw the top of the back of the bench. And then you want a parallel line below that that's the exact same length. I'm using the width of the ruler because that works for the size of my canvas. You might not be able to do that. Just make sure the lines are parallel. Now to draw the seat, we want another parallel line. Obviously the space between them will be smaller, and you just want to move the line over so that it's more to the left than the other two, but still the same length as the other two. So all of my lines here are 2.5 inches. And then to connect them all, you just go from the back to the back of the seat to the front of the seat, back of the bench, give it a little curve to the back of the seat to the front of the seat. And then you want to add armrests. And the legs are really simple. They're just little sticks that come out at an angle. And then the leg supports are just little rainbow shapes. And then there's a bench support, so it's just 2 circles with a bar that connects them. And that's your bench. Now I'm going to show you these lines with a marker, but you're not going to get this many lines when you're painting with a paintbrush. But you want to make sure when you're painting the lines to give them this curve. It gives the bench some movement. It creates the illusion that there's a shape to the back of it. So like I said, when you're painting this, you won't get this many lines. You don't have to worry about them being even. Just make sure they have a little bit of a curve in them. And then when we paint the seat, same thing. We'll have a little bit of a swoop. You won't get this many. Most likely it'll just end up looking like a black seat, and that's fine. And then we're going to bulk up the front edge. We're going to bulk up the back of the seat and the top of the bench. And there you have it. That's a park bench. Now we're ready to put VanTurken in the painting, so you just want to use your ruler and hold it up to see about what size she should be. I think I'm going to go with about 3 inches wide by 2 inches tall. So for this I'm going to teach you how to use any screen as a light box. It could be a computer or a phone. You could use either one. So you want to start off with Google. So you want to start by searching turkey silhouette, and when your results come up, click on images, and you'll get this whole page of options. Now you can choose whichever turkey you like. It could be a cartoon turkey, it can be a realistic turkey, whatever one you love. Click on that image. I'm going to choose this realistic looking one, and then just bring it up on the screen. And basically I'm going to use the ruler to see what size it is now. And I'm going to just zoom in and out on my screen until it's about the size I need. So on my laptop, if you hold Control and push plus minus, that'll zoom in and out. So here now he's too small, so I'm just going to zoom back in. A little too big, so I'm going to zoom out one more time. And that's close. So I want him to be 3 inches wide by 2 inches tall, so that's pretty good. So now you just take your blank piece of paper and hold it on top of the screen, and you can see the image through it. So you just take a pencil and lightly trace the image onto your paper. Don't push hard. You are on an LED screen. Take care of your computer here. You just need to get the shape onto the piece of paper. And it's basically the same process with your phone. So you start at Google, you search turkey silhouette. When the results come up, you hit images, and you'll end up with the list. Go through and find your favorite turkey. And then save that turkey, hold the image and save it to your photos. And then go into your photos in your phone. Find the turkey, and from here you can zoom in and out. Make sure that your brightness is as bright as it'll go. But you can size your turkey on the screen, and then same thing. Just put the piece of paper over it and use a pencil to trace it. Okay, and once you've got your turkey shape traced onto your piece of paper, you're going to want to take the scissors, and if you want to cut out this turkey and use that as a template to trace right onto the painting, go for it. That's a little more work than I'm willing to do, so I'm just going to cut away most of the paper so that I'm left with a more manageable square. And then we're just going to do the old school transfer trick. So take that piece of paper and turn it over, and with your pencil, scribble on the back everywhere that there's a line on the front. So you just want to make sure that the back of it has scribble everywhere that there's a line you're going to need to press on. So that way it transfers when we put it on the painting. So you don't have to color the entire back here, just where your turkey is on the front. And then you want to take this square and put your turkey on your painting, figure out where your composition is, where you want her to be. And then using the pencil, apply good pressure, don't get crazy, but enough pressure, and just trace your outline. And the scribble on the back will transfer onto the paper, onto the painting to give you a line to follow. Now I realized after the fact that VanTurken is a girl, so I didn't end up painting this beard that I just traced. And those pencil lines can be erased. So if you mess up, don't worry, you can fix it. And you don't have to worry about being too careful here because you are going to paint over it. So it's really just a guideline. You don't have to worry about being too exact. And by the way, if you know how to take the photo from Google and put it into a document and print it out on a printer and get this to happen, do it. I know a lot of people nowadays sometimes don't have printers. Or if you're like me, you have no idea how to take an image and size it properly to print out the right size. That's beyond my skill level. So I like the Lightbox just for that. But if you can print this with a printer, whatever makes this process easiest for you, please do that. So once you've got it all traced, you're left with a line and you can follow that. And now it's just a matter of painting it in. So now just use the lines that you drew like a coloring book and color everything in with black. Now don't worry if some of the lines of the bench are getting lost inside that tree because everything's just black. Later when we add some snow detail, you'll be able to see those things again. So just trust your lines and color in what you've got drawn there. It'll all come together later. Now that we've got our park scene complete, we're just going to add a few little details just to add some interest to the front here and really complete the painting. So we're just going to take a detail brush again with straight black paint, and we're going to add little tufts of grass that are going to be showing through the snow. So a great place to start is at the bottom of the trees, and just start at the snow line and flick your brush up. That'll give you a nice sharp point like a blade of grass, and just make little groups of them. This will help to show how deep the snow is, and again, just make them random anywhere in the front here where there would be a little bit of grass growing through the snow. So it's really totally random where you want to put your grass. I like to put it near the base of things just to help with the transition of an object into the snow, like around the bottom of the clock tower, where the feet of the bench would go into the snow. You could put a little bit, the bases of trees, all those kind of things. It just it's a great way to distract from just the hard line of something ending where it hits the snow. Gives the illusion that it's actually going into the snow if there's something else there in front of it. And then just a couple of little mounds of grass randomly in the foreground here, just to add some interest. Go freestyle wherever you like. You can do larger bunches with longer grass. Do a couple of little tufts that are just little short pieces just peeking out. You want them all to be unique. Remember to keep backing up, have a look at it, and see if there's anywhere you feel needs a little extra something. And add another random one to the horizon line while you're at it. Just helps that background snow look like it's in more of the background. Then once you're happy with all the mounds of grass, you want to wash your brush. We're going to go back to using white, so make sure all the black is cleaned out. Wipe it on your paper towel until it comes out clean. Oh, and real quick, Miss Turkin needs a shadow, so we're just going to take the small angle brush with our light blue, and same as if she was a tree, we're just going to tap in a little shadow for her. Depending on where you put your turkey, reference the sun. Make sure your shadow's going the right way. And then you want to give all of your little grass mounds a little bit of shadow. Just a few dots will do. The grass isn't that tall when you think about it, so the shadows will be very small. And then, of course, the clock tower and the bench need a little bit of a shadow. So same concept. You start at the base, it'll be solid color, and just pull the shadow out from there at the angle. Try to match your angles. And just keep pulling color out till it's as long as you'd like it. And for the bench, basically you just want to put the same sort of shadow that the pine trees get, as if it was underneath the seat. So you just want little blobs. You want the snow to show through, because the seat is also just bars, right? So there is light coming through it. So just right underneath the bench, and then a small shadow to indicate the back of the bench. And there you have it. Okay, now that we're done with shadows, we're going to start adding the snow detail. So we're going to switch from the angle brush. You clean that up. We're going to be going back to the detail brush. We're just going to be using white. And the thing with adding snow is you want to add it very slowly. So just get a little bit of white on your brush. The thing about adding white is it can get overwhelming very quickly. So you want to add it very slowly. You can always put on more. So start off with a little bit at a time. And you want to think about if snow is falling from the sky, where would it land? So it would land, obviously it's going to be on the top of your black lines, and it's going to land anywhere that's sort of horizontal or where the branches meet, like a little V. That's where snow is going to stick when it hits a tree. So anywhere where your branches meet the tree trunk, and any of the branches that are sort of laying horizontally will have a little bit of snow left on them. It doesn't have to be a solid amount of snow. Obviously, trees sway in the wind, snow falls off. So it can be very random, and you just want to make a little bit at a time. Just add it here or there. Some branches will have it, some won't. It's all very free form. Have some fun with it. Make sure as you go, you're backing up, looking at the whole tree. Sometimes when you're doing this fine detail work, I know I do anyway, you get your face really close to it. So it's good to just sit back, have an overall look, see where it needs a little more. And just keep adding it until you like the way it looks. So as you get down to it, put a couple of blobs of snow on the tree trunk as well. So if you think about trees have bark. So it's totally realistic that some snow would get stuck to the tree trunk itself. So just add a couple of little dots here and there. Again, add it very slowly, just to sort of give some roundness to your tree trunk. And then when you get down to the bottom, just take some more pure white and put some snow on the ground right in front of your tree as well. Just little blobs of snow. And then while you have the detail brush, put tiny little dots of snow that are sort of like just landed on the top of the grass that's coming out, and then put some snow where the grass meets the ground as well. And with the detail brush, just keep adding snow to the bare trees. And then think about, in the little grass too. And then just think about anywhere in here that snow would land if it fell. So on the clock tower, if the snow fell from the sky, it would land on the top edge. And because it's a square, you want to sort of create the illusion of that square by adding some snow into the front where the ledges would be. You want to go across the back of your bench. This is where it's going to show in front of that tree behind it. Add some to the top of the armrests and to the seat. And then just while your brush has barely any paint left, just give a little swipe to the front of the back bars, just to give them some depth in front of that tree, make them stand out a little more. And then we're going to switch to the large angle brush, the same brush that we made the pine trees with, and that's how we're going to get snow on them. So it's the exact same technique that you use to paint the tree itself. We're going to paint the snow. So at the top, keep your brush going vertical, and as you move down, change it to horizontal, and then keep it horizontal. And you're just adding tiny little blobs of snow. So it's not as much paint as the black, because the snow would only stick to the tips of the branches, so you're still going to see a lot of the black behind it. But this is literally how fast this happens. I'm not speeding up this tape. This is at regular speed. This is how quickly snow goes out onto a pine tree. It's very easy. And again, just keep backing up and looking at it and adding more where you think. And it's that simple. It happens so quickly. So while we have this brush, we'll do the other two as well. And then I just need to switch back to the detail brush and do this final bare tree on this side. Just adding snow where I think it belongs. Any space that's horizontal or where the branches meet. And then we're just going to add the snow to the rest of the little bunches of grass. Then I'm going to add a little bit of highlight snow. So before, when we were adding blue, that was making the shadows. This is going to make snow that's sort of highlighted. It's being touched by the sun, so it's a little brighter. So right around Miss Turkin, where she would have been stepping, we'll give her a little bit of fresh snow there. And then just randomly in the foreground, add little lines of snow. And if it starts to look a little too white, you can brush it out. You can even just use your finger to blend it a little bit if it looks like it's standing out a little too much. But this is just adding more depth. So where the blue shadows are, this is just adding highlights. This is just blending it in, so the individual brush marks aren't so obvious. Just keep backing up, get an overview, see where your painting needs a little something, and just add in some highlight snow. Just make a little mound, and then fade it in. Just like that. And once you're happy with the amount of snow you've got, that's it. Congratulations. That is your VanTurken winter sunset painting. Don't forget to sign your work. I'm just using some of the blue from the snow. And then one extra thing you could do if you want, it's totally optional, is just take a small flat brush and paint the edge of your painting. Well, I'm doing black, but you could do white, you could choose a color, whatever you'd like. It makes it look a lot better if it's going to be hanging on the wall without a frame. It just gives your whole painting a more finished look. And that is the last step. I want to thank everybody for following along. I hope you had fun. If you have any questions or feedback, please post them in the comments. This is my first video, so I'd really appreciate any constructive criticism or encouragement you may have. It would also be great if you could like and subscribe to my channel. I'd like to thank Lisa and the North Grenville VanTurken Day Committee for giving me a chance to contribute. I really had a lot of fun putting this together. And if you'd like to see more of my work, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Swamp Doll Studio. Thanks for watching, everyone. Happy VanTurken Day!